All right, new this morning, a U.S. citizen detained in North Korea. Tony Kim had been teaching at Pyongyang University of Science and Technology, taken into custody as he was getting ready to leave the country. Kim is the third American now being held by North Korea.
And all of this is happening as President Trump holds phone calls overnight with the president of China and Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe amid this escalating tension between the United States and North Korea. Also, North Korea threatening to sink a U.S. aircraft carrier. CNN senior international correspondent Ivan Watson is in Seoul for us. Before we get to the escalating tension, what more do we know, if anything, about why this additional American was not allowed to board his flight out of Pyongyang?
We don't have any charges yet that have been leveled against him. Most of the information coming from the Swedish embassy in Pyongyang, Poppy, because it represents U.S. interests in North Korea, since there are not direct relations between Pyongyang and Washington. We do know that he was trying to fly out of the country after teaching for weeks at this Pyongyang University. And if the past track record for Americans who've been detained by the North Koreans is any indicator, then he's in a very serious situation. There have probably been about a half dozen Americans over the last 5 years who've been grabbed by the North Koreans, usually at the airport when they're on their way out. And most of them, it has taken weeks, if not months, before they're released. Two other Americans are currently in custody right now. One of them, he was a 21-year-old student at UVA named Otto Warmbier. He was detained in January. He was finishing up a tourist trip, and he's been sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. Another one by the name of Kim Dong-chul was detained the previous year, and he's gotten 10 years of hard labor. So we'll be watching this closely. Of course, it takes place against this backdrop of real tension, this stalemate over North Korea's nuclear program, its ballistic missiles program, all of which are banned under the United Nations Security Council, but which North Korea defiantly insists it will continue to pursue, despite the fact that the U.S. and its allies here in the region, Japan and South Korea, both condemn it and say they'll respond somehow to try to stop it. And they're trying to get China on board as well to help somehow. And I think that last night's phone call between President Trump and the Chinese leader Xi Jinping is another indicator of the kind of diplomacy that the Trump administration is trying to pursue to try to get the North Koreans not to conduct another nuclear test. But I think the detention of another American may throw a new wrench into the works here.
Yeah, that timing very, very important with a lot of activity behind the scenes. Ivan Watson in Seoul for us. Thanks so much. We do have some